Alright, what's going on, good people? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby, representing Team Kings of Games. And today I'm coming at you guys as promised with my UA deck. Actually, this deck, the inspiration that I got actually came from Brandon. So shout outs to my teammate Turtle. Because realistically, I didn't even know a lot about these cards, and I didn't know very much about this deck. He brought it up to me one night, he started talking about it. And he showed me all the cards. I was like, what the heck, dude? This deck is actually good. Like, why does nobody play it? So then I really wanted to build it and try to make it great. So the thing was, I took this to locals. So first and foremost, I took this to locals. I got first place at locals, and it's just the locals. So it's not like, oh my gosh, UAs are amazing. But what we ended up doing was that day, as soon as I got off work, I had to rush from the laundromat to get here and then grab the deck and then go over there. So I didn't have time to build it. So I actually played round 1 with just 3 of every UA card in the deck. Just how it came when Brandon got the cards. So I couldn't tweak it or even build it yet. I didn't put any cards that I wanted to play. And I still won the first round. So basically our matchups at locals were... so we played Witchcrafters. We played True Dracos. We played Thunder Dragons, and we played the Salad Boys. So basically, the way the deck functions, I'm starting to realize more and more. The deck essentially, it appears on pen and paper to be like a beat down deck. As I was reading all the cards, I was like, it just seems like this deck is just trying to beat you down. But there's a lot more to it as I started realizing more and more, just playing with it. And really thinking through all the plays and starting to get more of an in-depth understanding on how the deck functions. It's a really good deck going first or going second. I chose to play going second because I felt it was more comfortable for me. Just because once I understood what first turn boards the deck was able to make, they weren't that dominating. Basically, it's able to set up 2 interruptions via UA Perfect Ace and also via Blockbacker, which is really good against combo decks, but not so great against back row decks. But anyways, that's enough rambling about the deck. I'm going to hop into the list. We'll talk a little bit more about the deck and how it plays. And just so you guys know, this list is just a rough draft. This is not actually how I want to build UAs. This is just how I ended up having to play it that night. I did get a bunch of cards for it from some friends, just so I can kind of build it halfway how I wanted to play it. So it's halfway there. It's like 50% of what it would be. But anyways, let's hop into the list, you guys. We played UAs, bro. And I was like, I was excited and happy that I got first place, but I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't coming there with the mindset at the top. I just came there wanting to play the deck. So we'll start off with 3 copies of UA Midfielder. Learning more and more, honestly, this is the bread and butter of the deck. He is the most important of all the UAs because he's the only one that you can normal summon without tributing. Now, there's ways to get around that, but essentially, I'm playing 10 copies of this card in my deck because I played 3 of this, 3 Foolish Barrel Goods, 3 UA Signing Deals, and 1 Reinforcement of the Army. So I see this card a lot. I mean, 1/4 of the deck is literally midfielders, so that really, it's helpful. This card and all the UA cards have one basic summoning mechanic for themselves, basically. They return a UA from your field to your hand to special summon them. You can only do that once per turn. Like, you can only summon them that way once per turn. This guy has a secondary effect where he can, as a quick effect, target another UA, bounce it, and special one from hand, which is actually really nuts. You can't swap one for the same name, but it's really nuts when you're going for damage pushes. Like, I was doing that how I was OTKing people was I was swinging with Midfielder and Dunker. I was swinging with Midfielder and Dunker, and in the middle of battle phase, I'd swap Dunker out for, what's his name? The Slugger guy, and I'd drop Slugger, and then I'd swing for game. It was, like, really good. Even on my opponent's turn, making plays like that, where you go Perfect Ace to negate, and then tag Perfect Ace out after the resolution of his negation to drop a Blockbacker so that you can keep interrupting your opponent's combos. Something I learned about Blockbacker is when he negates the effects, it's permanent, so he's, like, lost win. That's crazy good. But yeah, midfielder is kind of like your lifeblood. And just generating so much advantage off of him, the field spell, is naturally, as I learned, the only way the deck can really grind. So he's really important, you guys. Next up, the only other UA monster I played at 3 was Perfect Ace. Perfect Ace is probably one of the best ones. For me personally, my favorite one is Dunker right now, because Dunker has just been phenomenal for me. But I really do like Perfect Ace. Essentially, he can be played in other decks. What he does is he just negates a card or an effect. So the activation of a card or the use of an effect. So it could be face up in the field. It could be a graveyard, true Draco spell, a trap effect. He negates it and destroys it. The only thing he has to do is just discard any card. So that's pretty good. The fact that the cost is very universal and applicable for a lot of decks. So you could technically play him in like a Warrior Turbo deck and you could get away with it because he can be accessed through a soul and his effect is pretty easy to use. I really like the fact that he's not hard once per turn. So when you're able to basically establish a perfect ace off of Signing Deal and then normal midfielder, and basically you get to like generate advantage that way, and then you get to swap ace for another UA, and then with that UA you swing with that, and then you use midfielder to swap that out in battle phase to drop you perfect ace. And if you have a second perfect ace, you can then swap the midfielder and summon it through its own effects. So that's a way that you can play around them only being able to be special summoned once through their own effects. Also, you have plays off of him with Revival Rebounder, where you can basically, you're able to consistently get out multiple perfect aces, so you have multiple negations, which negations are always going to be pivotal in every single matchup. And then next up, 2 copies of Dreadnaught Dunker. He's my favorite one right now. Basically, he allows you to do piercing, and if he does battle damage to your opponent, he could target a card in the field and destroy it. That's not once per turn. That's important because there's a equip spell called Power Jersey, which is nuts. That card is crazy. It's really good. He's the best target for that. You basically, the idea is you want to block backer your opponent or turn tactics and use block backer to make your opponent's monsters go to defense. So that way he can go double damage piercing and then pop a card and then swing again and then double damage piercing and then pop another card. He's crazy good. Like, this was how I was OTKing people for the most part. He was the OTK maker. And then we have 1 copy of Mighty Slugger. It really helps for Sky Strikers, and also it helps for people who play Damage Step-esque effects and also Mirror Forces, etc. You can't activate anything when he attacks. So he stops floaters. He stops, like, Ray from happening from Grave. Really good card. Solid. I just wanted to play him at 1. Everything that I needed and multiples, I played at multiples. Everything else that was for the utility purposes, I played them all at 1. Next up, we have Blockbacker and Goalkeeper. Blockbacker is the lose 1 turn, essentially. But what people weren't realizing is that he negates the effects, and that's it. It doesn't say until the end of the turn. It just says negate the effects, so it's permanent, which is crazy good. He actually has really good synergy with their insanely busted quick play spell that I used to actually beat Thunder Dragons. Goalkeeper essentially protects him from being destroyed by battle or card effects as a quick effect. The one that I don't have, because Brandon doesn't have it either, is Rival Rebounder. I would play one of that also. He basically lets you do a lot more combos on your turn and your opponent's turn. He brings one from the grave or the hand. He's really insane, but we didn't have him. So this was the amount of UAs that I chose to play. I felt that the little bit of playtesting I got playing against Thunder Dragons immediately allowed me to understand exactly how I need to modify my ratios, because drawing too many of the high level UAs really sucks, because they are essentially bricks in your hand unless you have another UA on field, and he's the easiest one to get out. But at the same time, while you need UAs in hand, you just can't afford to draw a hand full of UAs with no midfielder, because if they're all UAs and there's no midfielder, you can't play at all. And that's what I really learned the hard way. So I started cutting stuff down to comfortable ratios. You do have basically the UA Stadium, which searches out all of them, and you essentially play 8 copies of it, because you have 3 of it, 2 Terraformings, and the Foolish Barrel Goods, which searches their stuff out. Next up, for some really good going second cards, I chose to play no hand traps at locals. I just really wanted to get the feel of it. And luckily, everybody at locals is cool. So once they understood that my deck wasn't finished, when I was able to finish round 1 really early, I got to finish building my deck before I got to play, and they were okay with that. And I explained to them the situation that, like, my deck wasn't even finished in the first place. So then we got to put in the Pancratops, which really helps my deck out a lot. Just in general for the damage pushes. And him in Dunker is crazy good. Like, oh man, like this guy, he's an honorary UA, and he's tribute fodder with your bad hands. Next up, 3 Destrudo and 1 Mare. There's a lot of ways that you can set up for this. Signing Deal is one of the ways. Another one of the ways is via the engine that I'm playing, which I'll get to when I get to. But yeah, this is insane, because now that we have Security Dragon, where's that bad boy at? Right here, Security Dragon. Destrudo Mare is even more nasty, because you get to clear more cards, essentially. And you get to do what you would do with Unicorn when you're trying to get rid of a monster that can be, like, destroyed with Security Dragon, which is nuts. And you get, like, just so much plays off of it. So yeah, 3 Pinkertops, 3 Destroodle, and 1 Mirror. Next up for our spells, which is the hefty portion of the deck. I would say it's more than 50% of the deck is spells. We're starting off with 3 copies of UA Stadium. So this card, as I was reading it, I was like, wait a minute. The only once per turn effect is if they're special summoned to gain 500. So the searching effect is not once per turn. That's nuts. But we're not playing double summons or anything like that. But I just really want to find a way to capitalize off of the fact that the effect to search a UA monster is not once per turn. But essentially, if a UA monster is normal summoned, you get to search a UA monster from deck to hand. And then if a UA monster is special summoned, all monsters you control gain 500. That applies to everything, including your UAs, which is nuts. 3,100 Pinkertops ain't no joke. And then 2 Optimus Prime to search out the field spell. Field spell is really important. Every hand is going to be a lot more playable if you have both midfielder and the field spell. That's how you generate a lot of your advantage. And that's one of the only ways that the deck can grind. Is just looping midfielder, normal him, search a UA, bounce him back to hand, summon that UA, and keep him in hand so you always have a play next turn to just normal him, search another one. And that's just how you grind. It's one of the only ways that I really know how to grind with this deck so far. And the grind happened against Dracos and Witchcrafters, because who would have thought a Trident hurts this deck so much? Next up, 3 Foolish Barrel Goods. I dare say that this is the best spell in the deck. It dumps their trap penalty box, and this searches any UA spell. The UA spells are where it's at. They're the bread and butter of the deck. But 3 Foolish Barrel Goods is Mando. I would never cut it to any less. I don't care that it's hard once per turn. I care about the advantage that I get off of it. Opening this just makes every hand playable. You can get your field spell. You can get your signing deal. If you haven't seen midfielder yet, you can get literally the equip spell for the OTKs. You can get the quick play spell, which breaks boards. Like, it's just, there's too much versatility with this card to not play it at 3. And this was the engine that I went for because it was the most efficient tactic available at the time. It's not how I would play UAs, but I dare say that the Sky Striker engine really helped me out a lot. The main reason that it helped me was because Hornet Drones gave me tribute fodder to tribute some of my UAs to trigger the field spell and get midfielder, which allowed my hands to be more playable. So essentially, this will end up becoming another card that mitigates that issue, but Engage was really good. And I understand that it's a Sky Striker engine, and now people might start hating because this is what I went with, but please do understand that I didn't have very much with me, and this is just how I had to build the deck because I was at locals, and I didn't have all my stuff, and I didn't have time to build the deck. So yeah, I'm just showcasing you guys my rough draft like I was explaining. So 3 Engage. We also have 3 copies of Signing Deal. Signing Deal is basically the tour guide for their deck. It special summons a UA from the deck. It's crazy good, man. I wish it wasn't once per turn because it still wouldn't be overpowered if it wasn't once per turn. It'd be nice though. This card is nuts. It gets you access to anything that you want. There is a stipulation. The effects will be negated, can be used for Sync or XYZ material, and you take 300 times the level. So they did a really good job of making this card balanced. If they had all those restrictions, they might as well have just made it not once per turn. So this card is one of your focal starter cards. Opening with this and any way to access your UA Stadium is going to be really nuts, as long as you have another UA monster in your hand to bounce the midfielder so that you can normal summon him. Next up, 2 Pinpoint Landing. I do not own any extravagance at the moment, so Pinpoint Landing was basically what was available for me. It does work really well. How I was out-resourcing the Witchcrafter deck that I played against, which that deck was actually really good. I can't believe Witchcrafters are that good. Was this and this established were just too good. Every turn I was generating 2 additional cards on top of my draw for turn, so I was getting 3 cards to hand every turn. I was getting the search off this and the draw off this. It was just starting to get out of hand. I was plussing 2 every turn because of Pinpoint and Stadium. So I do think that Pinpoint is really good. I would replace it with Extravagance, but it has more longevity than Extravagance. So for me personally, it could hold a higher ceiling in the mid to late game, but Extravagance is just way too good to start off with. And then next up, we do have to talk about this spell because this actually is insane, you guys. Turnover Tactics. This card is nuts. Like, I can't even believe it. So if you control 2 UA monsters with different names, you shuffle all monsters on the field into the main decks. Keep in mind, remember that. Main deck. I'm sorry, not into the main deck, into the deck. I'll read it specifically so you guys don't think that I'm, like, mixing the words up. But basically, you shuffle all monsters on the field into the deck. Then you special summon UAs with different names amongst each other from your deck up to the number of monsters shuffled. And then your opponent, this is where they made it balanced, your opponent can special monsters from their deck up to the number of monsters that were shuffled into their main deck. Why is that important, 3 stacks? You can shuffle an entire field of extra deck monsters, and your opponent cannot special summon anything because they were turned to the deck. And just so that you're clear that this doesn't shuffle them into the main deck, we'll read right here so you guys don't think I'm like lying to you or anything like that. It says, shuffle as many monsters on the field as possible into the deck. Boom. So now you know. The monsters that are from the extra deck still do go to the extra deck. It's just because they weren't returned to the main deck, your Thunder Dragon players are not going to be able to do anything. When you can bait their negates and clear their field with this, it's nuts. And so how you mitigate the issue where you play against monster decks that have monsters that are going to be sitting on the main deck and will get great effects that when they special summon them is you have to remember that this card allows you to special your UA monsters first, and then your opponent specials theirs. So what you're going to do every single time you resolve this card, as I learned from experience, is you summon your Blockbacker. Now, Blockbacker works on a summon of multiple monsters. It has a parentheses and an S in between that, meaning it applies for multiples. So when you summon your Blockbacker first and your other UA, then your opponent specials however many they get to special, you activate Blockbacker, and basically those monsters, and it's an if effect, not a win effect. Basically, those monsters get their battle position changed to defense or attack, hopefully defense, so we can pierce with Dunker and go for game, and their effects are negated. So that's how you stop Gazelle from getting an advantage. That's how you stop, for Salamangreat specifically having like monsters in their main deck that really work well and have great effects. That's how you stop that. For Thunder and the Sky Strikers, their stuff's going to be in the extra deck. That's as far as the meta goes. And then when you're playing Orcus, it's going to be a lot of stuff pertaining to the extra deck. But to play around that particular interaction where your opponent has good monsters in their main deck, you bring out your Blockbacker and you automatically get to negate them, which is really strong. And normally, you'll just bring out Blockbacker and Perfect Ace. So that way, if they bring out a monster that can negate Blockbacker, you can chain Ace to negate that to ensure that they don't get any kind of an amazing effects so that your spell doesn't come back to haunt you and have a drawback. But yeah, this is actually insane. This was one of the main reasons why I was even able to compete with Thunder Dragons, because I just really needed to search a lot, and I had no way to out the Thunder Dragons until I got to this card. I want to play it at 3, but ratios have been a problem with this deck. But yeah, this spell is actually insane. It's a quick play. You can use it as an actual trap. If you open Signing Deal plus your regular plays, you can drop Ace and Blocker, and you can flip this after you've negated their plays. And if you're playing Thunder Dragons, they're going to establish a nice, huge field. You just flip this right before they start going into the Agripane. Like, the second they summon Agripane, you want to activate this so they don't get something that can negate this, which is nuts. So yeah, this spell is ridiculously insane. And then next up, a Power Jersey. I was playing 3 of it. Once I got to figure the ratios out and put in the cards that I need over what I want, this card's a really good one-of. It's not once per turn, so you can actually equip multiples, and it doesn't say like you cannot equip more than one. But basically, the UA you equip it to gains 1,000 attack and defense. It does double damage whenever it attacks your opponent's monsters, and if that monster destroys a monster by battle, it attacks again. What you do is, when you've done tactics, you force your opponent's monsters to go to defense with Blockbacker. You bounce this to hand. You special summon your Dunker, and Dunker is going to, get the boost if you have the field spell, or if you already have the field spell, the monsters you summoned previously would get the boost. But then you equip this to him, he's at 3,500, and you use him to attack their defense monster that was from the main deck, do double piercing damage. This is Chaos Max that can attack twice and destroy cards at the same time. So yeah, it gets really out of control. So many people were caught off guard. I played, basically, the only rogue deck that I played was Witchcrafters. I don't consider Dracos to be rogue. But yeah, this is insane. I really like it. The UA spells are really the main reason why you have so much issues with space, because when you look at how important they are, you understand that like they forcefully take up a vast quantity of your main deck as far as slots go. So continuing with the part of the deck that might just get hate, and I don't mind it. I mean, it's my deck anyways. We have 1 Hornet Drones, 1 Widow Anchor, 1 Afterburner, 1 Jamming Wave. So this is the Sky Striker package I chose to go for. So what I wanted was for every non-UA card to provide spot removal, because I wanted everything out of my way to make sure that I can make plays with my UAs. And the other thing that these engines did was they baited out hand traps. Like, Engage and the entirety of the Sky Striker package just baits negations and interruptions like hand traps, back rows, and monster effects that can negate cards, activation, etc., etc. In addition to that, Destrudo Mare is also a really good, another way to bait. You can also just bring out the drones token after you've brought it back off Kagari, and you can activate it again, and you can Destrudo Mare off of that. If you wanted to, you just like take the Kagari, turn it into Hayate, and then you go into Destrudo, and it's just, you can do so much to bait negations that these were just insane. I mean, it resolved more than it got negated, and it really helped me, just like I said, just clearing the field. The spot removal you get off this and this, especially when I played against Dracos, and against Dracos, it was Dracos, and then the Witchcrafter, which were the two probably the decks that I struggled the most against, besides Thunder. These cards just really helped me out. There was one time when I used Widow Anchor to take a monster just so I can tribute summon for my Slugger and trigger my field spell. It was an awkward game. But yeah, Sky Striker, the Sky Striker engine really helps. And then we have the one Rhoda to search out your midfielder. And then the only traps I play in the deck, no Evenlies in the main. I really prefer to do damage. If you can't do damage, you can't resolve Dunker. And I just really like this card a lot. So we have 2 penalty box. Its graveyard effect banishes it to search a UA spell. Its on-field effect, if your UA monster battles an opponent's monster, you banish their monster to the second end phase. That's actually really nuts. This card and the quick play were the only reason why I was even hanging in there against Thunder Dragons. So once I realized it, even though Thunder Dragons are actually the worst matchup for this deck, they have cards in their main deck strategy that are UA cards that actually out the Thunder Dragons without targeting or destroying, which is just nuts. So it plays around Phantasme and the destruction protection effect of Colossus, which is really incredible. Now for the side deck, I sideboarded 3 Evenlies and 3 Reboots and 3 Twins. This was specifically for back row decks. Whenever I would have played Strikers, I would definitely side these in. Sometimes Strikers just get way too much advantage, and it's just like it's worth sacrificing your battle phase. I also side in the Kaijus. I knew that this deck would not be that good against meta, so... Well, it's good against meta to an extent, but so like when you have those awkward hands and you just really, they're so fragile that 1 or 2 interruptions can stop it, these cards just mitigate that issue immediately. Especially this, it just automatically just turns off every Sky Striker related card in that matchup. Also helping to distribute over Colossus. Because typically the Danger Thunder Dragon deck these days is just dropping 1 Colossus and the other Colossuses are being used to XYZ summon. So normally 1 Kaiju is good enough because as long as you can search, you can bait out the other negations just by resolving like Engage for Widow and stuff of that nature. And like Destrudo Mare is still insane because they don't make Crystal Wing anymore. So Destrudo Mare breaks their whole board. And then I still sided in Ash Blossoms because I just really did not want to lose specifically to getting like that crazy Wombo combo with Azathoth or Danger Thunder Dragons just going into their like basic Summon Sorceress play, Card of Demise, just stuff like that. I felt that it was comfortable. I would main it, but I just wanted to play the main deck without hand traps just to kind of get that challenge to see how good the deck was without using hand traps to simplify the game state. Basically, everybody that played against me, game 1 got to play Solitaire if they won the dice roll, and I had to just break whatever board they made. For the extra deck, we have 1 Link Karibo. This is for the Mare package. We played one of each of these Sky Striker links. I was going to play kinda 2 for time, but I was like, it's the locals, dude. So we just played these 3. You go into these, like when you're going second, obviously you're going into Hayate first because Hornet Drones just gives you more advantage that way, and you load your grave with spells, so your Engage can draw, and then you get more options for Kagari. But you go into this first typically, and then you swing. But if you're going to break the board before you go in for the swing, you make Kagari first. You definitely do, just to add an Engage back and search another card, because you typically go for Jammy Waves or Afterburner first, and then Widow Anchor off adding the Engage off Kagari and resolving it again. And then Isold, I would definitely play more of this card. It was actually insane for my deck. It just really helped out a lot. Just linking 2 of my UAs, or even the Sky Striker token, plus what I summoned off UA signing build into Isold. It was just really good. And activating her effect to search just to bait negations is really incredible. But most importantly, it searches my follow-up. So if I didn't have a midfielder, but I was able to do, like, for example, some awkward play to get 2 warriors, I could search midfielder. Or if I already had it, I could just search another ace for next turn. Then the Link 2s continuing. These were all the Link 1s. The Link 2s continuing. We have Isold, obviously the Nightmares that are budget. We have Akashic. Security Dragon was my supplement for Unicorn, Nightmare Unicorn. I would play Unicorn if I had it. Honestly, this would be the Unicorn. Essentially, it does kind of the same thing, except this doesn't target either. But yeah, Ningaritsu's nuts, because I'm playing Widow Anchor, so I could take my opponent's links and just take their link and my Sky Striker link and make this. I also could just make this regularly in my own deck. Then we have Trishbania, because I just don't like back row decks. We have Borload and Borsword. I didn't make either one of them. What I did instead, which was really cheesy, and a lot of people didn't expect it, was off of my Mare plays. When I was on low resources and couldn't make Borload, I would just make Chambara. Because when you resolve Mare for the final time, it goes from a level 5 to a level 4. And that level 1 token and that level 4 tuner make this. And after you've just basically cleared their entire field, like normally you, like Akashic, you go Akashic, then you start co-linking the Nightmares, discard, draw. And then you take a Nightmare in that and you go into Security Dragon. And then you just bounce another threat. It just gets really out of control. Like really quickly, and then you just get to go off in your plays from there. If you have one other monster, that's a Boral, but that's typically what you end up doing. So yeah, that's basically the extra side and main. That's UAs for now, you guys. I am working really hard on getting a better list. Now that I'm like able to go through all my cards and all of my bulk and do some research, I'm gonna be coming at you guys with a way different UA list. Especially because people just obviously just don't like Sky Strikers for some reason. So, yeah, we'll have to make a list that's going to be acceptable by all audiences. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. God bless you. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. And you folks have a beautiful day, all right? Stay positive.